Central from 7 in all, and today I'm going to be talking about the do's and the don'ts of gifted homeschool. If you are new to my channel, I do occasionally make videos specifically about gifted homeschool, and I want you to know that in these videos I am speaking from the perspective of being a gifted homeschool student, growing up with a brain that is wired in this way. I am hoping to offer support and just kind of information and help for parents who are currently on the unexpected journey of homeschooling gifted kids right now. And to give you encouragement that there's light at the end of this racetrack that you're on, and to give you some sympathy and humor along the way. If you are appreciating this video, please do give it a thumbs up down below. And if you're new here, please subscribe to my channel. That does help my channel out a lot and I really appreciate it. So today I'm going to be talking about some do's and don'ts that I'm pretty passionate about. Of course, we have that standard disclaimer that there is never a 100% everything. Everybody should do the same thing and everybody should not do all of these things. You need to know your own family and your own child well enough to know whether this is a good fit for your situation. So now that the mandatory disclaimer is out of the way, let's get started. I'm going to start with a don't, because this is one I'm pretty passionate about. Don't diminish the importance of academic achievement. And this is one I'm passionate about because it's something I see in homeschool a lot. It's the rhetoric of test scores don't really matter. Academic achievement doesn't really matter. It matters more whether you can handle, life and relationships and all that. Don't worry about, it doesn't really matter how much you can do in geometry and physics and whatever kind of super high level of academia. Doesn't matter. And from a point of maturity, I definitely understand where this is coming from. And I even believe it doesn't matter how smart you are if you are not kind and if you can't care about people. So I do believe this, but at the same time, this rhetoric of diminishing the importance of academic achievement can be really hurtful to the gifted child. It can be really hurtful because it's like, I have this superpower. I have a really cool superpower, and people just say, oh, that doesn't matter. Life skills are so much more important than the ability to just do geometric proofs in your head. Who cares about that? You never use, when's the last time you would use geometry? We have all of this. It does exist. People might not notice it, but it does exist very much in homeschool, a diminishing of academic achievement. And if you have a gifted child, please don't go into this culture. Because it just is hurtful. This is something special. This is something that should be celebrated. No, academics are not all that there is in life, but these kids should realize how cool it is the way that their brains work. And it's not something that is always going to be the most important thing. But if I can take the ACT and score in the top 1% of scores with barely even studying for it, that's not something that should be said, oh, that doesn't matter. Like, that's cool, okay? It's not the most important thing in life, but it's cool. So don't diminish this. That's my first don't. On the do side, do emphasize and explicitly teach skills that are non-academic. So this is the relational skills. This is the social skills, social cues. This is all of these values that might be more of a challenge to your gifted child. So they might race ahead in all of academics, but then in some other areas of life, it might be a lot harder for them to have patience. It might be a lot harder for them to have the patience with having a conversation with somebody because they already know everything that the other person's going to say, so why should they sit around and listen to them? So social, relational, emotional skills, these are all something that should be regular conversations, regular things taught in your household, that you are teaching the skills to handle situations that are hard for your kids. These are serious life skills that they need to develop. I would be having conversations always about the values behind different important social norms, saying thank you, values behind being patient, values behind being able to listen to what someone says, show respect to them, teach the values, because gifted kids really need to think about why something matters. We're not so likely to just take the arbitrary, this matters, just trust me. But have conversations about the values, intentionally practice skills of patience, intentionally practice skills of conversation, practice social and emotional skills, and then praise a lot of success and praise growth within those skills. Recognize when your child is doing something actually hard for them, which might not be math, which might not be science or reading, but it might be something more on the emotional skills, emotional regulation, social skills side. So do give an intentional focus to those skills. The next do and don't is very much a pair. Do plan for a lot of self-paced learning. Sorry, Mom, but we can be very impatient when we have to rely on our teachers to teach us. So for your own good, for everybody's good, plan for a lot of self-paced learning. Don't plan for your child to have to need you to progress, because then they're going to be constantly on you and you're not going to have enough time to keep them progressing as much as they want to. But on the flip side of that, don't leave your child fully in charge of their own education. They still need a parent. They still need you to be in charge. They still need you to be guiding them in the directions that they should go, checking their work, making sure that things are happening in the right way. So your gifted child does still need your involvement in their education, even if they don't quite recognize that they do right now. The next don't is don't expect your gifted child to be working on the same level in all subject areas. It's actually very typical that they will have quite a dissonance between different subject areas. Some more gifted minds are more like myself, where it was much more broad and pretty much ahead in every area, but others, they might be way further ahead in math and science versus in reading. And then others might be much more gifted in language type of realms, in learning languages versus in math. Or certain subject areas just might be where they need to race ahead. And where I say that where they just have that inherent need to race, I wouldn't hold them back. I wouldn't be worried about gaps in that area where it's just they just get it like this. Don't hold them back. Don't think that they need to go back and go over it again, because that's so painful. That's so painful for this gifted mind. So don't hold them back in those areas. Go ahead and let them race ahead, but don't try to bring up every subject to that same level, because they might not be ready in every subject area to be all at the advanced level. Some they might need to be more further at their more natural age level. Do let your gifted child be a child, and do let them know gently and in many situations that they are not the parent. And this kind of shows itself in a couple ways. There is a big temptation when you have a gifted child to have less tolerance for childishness and immaturity, because you have a child who's reading college textbooks for fun. So then they do something that's just childish and you're like, what? Why? You're so smart. Why would you do this? They're a kid. They're children. Children do not, their brains don't function quite in the same way as adults. They don't think in the same way. So don't expect your gifted child to be like an adult. They may be much more adult-like than you would normally expect of a child, but be tolerant of still childishness and immaturity. Of course, teach through those experiences. Let them learn through life consequences. But expect that they're still going to be kids, and they still have a lot to learn from the adult in their lives. They are not the boss of the family. They're not in charge. Let them know that gently, that that's not their role in the family. My mom likes to say, time has not made us equals. You are the parent and they are the child. You both have very important roles in your family. Those roles are not the same roles. And so their role is, their job is to be in their role, enjoy their role. In someday they might be a parent and then they would have a similar role to you, but they are not you. So you do your role, your child does their role. That's how we were created. That's how we function as a family. So teach the ideas behind it, that it's not just arbitrary, but remember that gifted kids are kids and allow them to be kids. The next do that I would suggest is be willing to invest in their greatest passions. And I know that gifted individuals can have some very niche and sometimes very odd passions. But the thing is, you don't know as a parent what might come out of these passions. We do not know the future. We don't know why our little ones might be created with just this certain desire to learn as much as they can about this topic that it never occurred to us to care about. So I would invest time and invest your money, not like never invest more than you can, but be willing to invest what you can, what you reasonably can, into their passions. And their passion might change, and be willing to support that. But this is important to me because when a child feels safe that you will invest in their passions, that you will show interest and care about what gives them life, then you can come from that point of honesty and safety to be like, I am investing in your passions, and you can trust me that I'm going to care about your passions. You can trust me that I'm going to care about what you want to learn about, but you are also going to trust me enough that you need to learn these other basic foundational skills that might not be in your area of passion, because this can be an issue with gifted kids, that they only want to learn about their passions. So that's where I say invest in them and show your support of these passions. But the result of that, the flip side of that, should be reminding them, like creating this safe space for exploring their passions, so that they know your passion is not going to be ignored. This thing that gives you life is not going to be ignored, but you are also going to invest some of your time, some of your energy into doing this schoolwork, into learning about this topic, into learning these social emotional skills as well. So you feel safe. We're going to learn about your special passion, but we're going to learn about this as well. And my last don't for today is, don't pat yourself on the back and congratulate yourself for your fantastic teaching skills when it comes to your gifted child's academic achievements in their area of giftedness. Like, realize this is kind of more about them and who they just naturally are than it is about you. Because it can be, we do put a lot of hard work into parenting. We do put a lot of hard work into teaching. It can be a little bit deceptive, and it's just kind of not true if you're like, oh, I use this system and I practiced this, and my child was reading chapter books at 3 or 4 years old. Your child was probably going to be reading 3 chapter books at 3 or 4 years old anyways, let's be honest. These kids who just race ahead of you and fly, and you're hanging on, you're hanging on by their shoestrings, it's largely not because of what you do. These are kids that would have raced and learned no matter what. Of course, we seek as parents to give them the best atmosphere to grow their little minds, the best atmosphere for these kids who just love learning and desire learning. But in a way, just remember that it's not really about you. It's not really about your curriculum choices in these kind of cases. It's about them, and it's pretty darn amazing. I hope that this video was helpful and encouraging to you if you are homeschooling and parenting gifted children, or someone on this scale, or know somebody. So I hope this was helpful. And if you have any of your favorite do's and don'ts of things that really work in your family and your homeschool, feel free to share them in the comments below.